So, hey guys and gals, Insomnia from UnrealTek.net here, a division of BlenderTek.com. A user asked if I could do a tutorial on Unreal's damage system after seeing one of my videos for my Game Jam prototype where I was shooting a car and doing damage until it exploded and there was 3D widgets and whatever. So today we will look at using the first person template to apply damage, measure damage, do things on damage, like certain events. And today we'll be focusing on the basic and most commonly used type of damage system, Unreal's point damage system inside of their generic damage system. Unreal has a very good damage system built in, so you don't have to create it yourself, and it works really well. So this built-in system allows you to apply damage of any value to another actor or multiple actors. In further videos, we will look at radial damage for things such as explosions or magic spells, whatever, and things like grenades, where damage is applied in an outward circular direction, losing energy as it goes. But today we're just going to look at the basic point system. So I am streaming at the same time as I record this tutorial, so for those of you watching on YouTube, you shouldn't notice anything. But for those of you on Twitch, I will be just going off screen and pausing for a few seconds from time to time to pause the video or pull up information, just to save me editing it after. So with that said, remember our motto, create your way, and let's get started. So the basic premise of damage, obviously, is to take your character or whatever, your vehicle, whatever it is, to apply damage to an object to reduce its health, or whatever it doesn't necessarily have to be considered health, but to reduce its life, essentially, for a certain reason, whether that be to destroy it, or whether that be to change it, or whatever you want to do with damage. It really doesn't have to just be health. So the basic premise is I come in and I shoot something and it does a certain amount of damage, and maybe if I shoot it a bunch, then it explodes or something. So let's open up our character blueprint. I'm gonna just change the editor preferences to not open those in a new window. I'm also going to turn off source control. That should not be on. And I'm also going to open up first person projectile. It's pretty basic. It's not a bullet or anything, but it does give you a good idea of how to use the projectile system, which gives you a lot of things you can do to change how damage is applied. And yeah, so we'll go into our character as well, and so we'll look at a few things in blueprints that we can use to apply damage and how the general damage system works. So if you were to right click on, actually let's create an actor class quickly. Just for example, why is my window like this? Let's change that. Move that way over. Don't need this to be that big either. Actually, I found out the other day I liked it if I had this over here. It gives you way more room to blueprint. It's much nicer. You got all that room in your graphs then. So let's set that as default. Alright, so if you were to right click in any blueprint basically and search for damage, you have quite a few things. The AI can perceive a damage event, you can apply damage, so just basic damage, you can apply point damage, you can apply radial damage with fall off, so that's like an explosion going out, like a fragmentation grenade. There's some basic event dispatchers. You have damage types, so that's radial, point, etc. You can set it if an actor can or cannot be damaged. And most importantly, though, we have three events. Event any damage, so that's when this actor takes any damage, as it says. There's event point damage, so when the actor takes point damage, and event radial damage, which we'll look at in a later video. And so this is again when it goes outwards in a circle for magic or grenades or whatever. And the most important thing to realize about this, well, these three events, is that they only fire on the server, so they're set up perfectly to work in multiplayer. They're kind of a plug and play, and you could have it working in multiplayer in no time. So we're gonna look at, let's just start with any damage. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn these cubes into a blueprint. So I'm gonna select it, go into the details panel, blueprint, add script. I'm just going to throw it in the content folder, and I'm going to call it BP damage tester, or damage testing actor. We'll create blueprint. It should open it up. So what we're going to want to do is take that event. So let's right click event damage. So we want any damage. And so notice the options gives you. So we have obviously our execution string. You can see it's got the replication server side icon. You can see it can be bound to events through a delegate. We have damage, so it tells you how much damage has been applied. The damage type, so I believe I can, no, I can't break that. I have to cast it. So it tells you if it, what type of damage it is, radial, point, whatever. You have instigated by, so this is whatever controller instigated it. So if you were making a multiplayer game, you could use this to figure out, you know, player 4, you know, applied 50 damage to player 2 and killed him. You got wasted or whatever. And damage causer is the actor that sent the damage. So you could go a little bit further and even go player 4 using RPG 7 applied 70 damage to BP damage testing actor on player 2 and killed him or whatever. So let's test this a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're going to set up a variable called health, obviously, just pretty standard. It's going to be a float, and we're going to compile so that we can change that. So we'll give this box 100 health. So what we're going to want to do is on any damage, when any damage occurs, we're going to want to set health. So we're going to hold down Alt and drag it in to make a setter, or you can just drag it in and select set, of course. We're going to want to set health to itself, so I'm going to hold down Control and drag it in, minus float minus float minus the total amount of damage that was basically, I don't know how you describe it, but executed to this actor through the any damage event. So we're going to set our health to that value. So basically we'll be subtracting health anytime this event gets fired. And just for testing, we will set up a little blueprint debug string. So we're going to do a print string. We're going to go append so we can do a multiple strings. So we're going to say, we're going to go instigated by, or damage causer, that's the actor reference. We want to get display name, so that'll tell us what actor caused it, if that information is available. It's not always available, so we're going to go into we're going to go space caused space and then add pin. Then we're going to convert how much damage they did to a string. Caused, so it'll be a x, a certain amount of damage, so x damage to, and then we'll get a reference to self, use string self, get display name. Oh, come on, how come that won't work? There we go. Just need to turn off context sensitive. It's kind of a little bug I should report. Damage to whatever this actor is. So, just like so. So that's our debug string there. So we could give it a comment debug string. So we'll be turning that off. So let's see what happens stock. So we'll save that. So we got this cube for damage. I'm going to delete the other ones. Whoops, so that I don't get confused. So what happens in the first person template if we just shoot it? Nothing. Even though there's a projectile hitting it, it is not doing anything. And we can verify that by checking our health value. It's set to 100, so it's not taking any damage. So how do we apply damage? So if we're just shooting at it, how come it's not doing anything? How come it's not damaging it? Well, let's look at our first person projectile in the event graph. So on event hit, so when our little ball hits something, this is what happens. It checks if the other thing it hits is simulating physics. If it isn't, we do nothing. If it is, we add impulse and then destroy the projectile. So adding impulse, that's basically adding force. So that's why it moves around. And we are simulating physics, so that's why it is moving around. I keep forgetting that I move my panel down there. So if we go down to physics, we are simulating physics. So we're simulating physics, we're shooting it with a ball. Why is it not getting damaged? Well, let's go into here. So we're adding impulse. I think it's a little high, so let's multiply it by 25. I hate the way it bounces around so much. Yeah, that's better. Alright, so yes, we want to destroy the actor after, but we want to apply damage to that actor. So let's type in damage again, and remember there's all sorts of things we could do. We could apply damage, apply point damage. So let's just start with applied damage. So as you can see, again, it's got the server replication icon, so I'm just going to connect it into the execution chain. So the damage actor, the actor that will be damaged, how do we figure that out? Well, since we're simulating physics, we can just simply go into other. It gives us an actor reference, so we can just plug other right into it. It's a little bit hard to see, so we'll just double click on the lines to add reroute nodes. Base damage, how much damage are we going to do? Well, we can use the stock calculation that it's doing in here. So it's just adding an impulse of velocity times 25. So how many centimeters per second it's traveling times 25. It's probably going to be a lot, but let's use that. So we are going to split down at the bottom, break vector, not split. Actually, we should just be able to plug this right in it. No, it's going to be a bugger. So yeah, we're going to break the vector. We're going to add up the x, y, and z. So plus float, add 2 pins, x, y, and z. So we're turning the vector value of the velocity, so how much impulse we're adding, basically, how much force we're adding. This is measured in newtons. And we're going to use that as our base damage, just to see what happens. So event instigator, we're not going to use that yet, but we definitely could. The actor that actually caused the damage, we're going to get a reference to self so that we can tell everybody who's causing the damage, although that is optional. Really, you could just work like that. Who are we damaging? How much damage are we applying? You could really work just like that, but the damage causer is self. We could go event instigator, get player controller if we wanted, and then damage type, we're just gonna go none, or damage type. You can see it just for a basic type of damage, basically. Yeah, environmental is not something I'm gonna get into, so let's try that out. So just gonna save everything. When we hit play, we hit the thing now, we get a message. So the first person projectile 6 caused 55,000 damage to BP damage testing actor. So it's kind of cool. It actually figured out which projectile, exactly how much damage, and what it hit. So let's shoot it again and just see what kind of values we get. So it's finding out exactly what actor it is, and you're seeing that we're getting a different amount of damage based on the velocity, basically, since that's what we're using to calculate it, and we're doing it to that actor. So obviously that's way too much damage. So we would need to, what are we doing, like up to 50,000? So we need to divide by like 1,500, I think. Yeah, 42, 39, 38, 40. I'd even go a little higher, maybe 2,500. $5,000. Alright, so we got our debug message, so that's kind of nice, but we want to make it do something. So let's go back into, we don't need that one, into our damage testing actor. So we have our damage setup and our debug string, but we also want to check, let's go let's go event tick into a branch. So I'm holding down B and clicking the mouse button to create one automatically. I have a video on showing how you can add or edit all the one-click nodes. But anyways, so we're gonna check is health. So again, I'm holding down control to do a getter. Is health less than or equal to 0.0? So has our health been depleted? If true, again, let's just do a string for now. If true, then we'll go wasted. If I could spell, we'll make it red. So let's see if that actually works. So let's see if we shoot the box 1, so we did 11, 12, 12, 12. Oh, wasted. But it's spamming it, so we need to make sure to only do once. So we print the string. Once it's done, then we reset it. Or no, we won't. We'll have to reset it another way. So once we deplete all its health, it's wasted. We're still applying damage, but its health has been depleted. So we could then go wasted and destroy actor. So let's test that out. So we shoot it enough times and wasted, it got destroyed. So that is the basic premise of applying simple damage. I'm gonna not do the destroy actor. Instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the static mesh component and I'm gonna set material. I believe this only has one index. Yep, cube material. So let's just quickly create a new material and let's call this material death. And we'll just set it to a base color. So I'm going to hold down 3 and click to get a vector 3 of pure red. I'm going to drag off there and type in metal for metallic shading, one of my favorite nodes, and just plug that into base color. So it'll be a very simple setup. So we'll set it to death. So let's see how that works. So obviously we shoot it, 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 bang, it turns red. Perfect. So what else could you do with this simple setup? Well, you could change the color over time. So what if we took material death and took this red color? What if we set it to black? Actually, that doesn't matter. Yeah, we'll set it to white. Let's right click, convert to parameter. We're going to call this parameter damage color. And we're going to save. So now that's a parameter that we can play with. And sorry, I missed it. If you select it, you'll notice that it is a vector parameter. Vector because it has 4 values, RGBA, red, green, blue, alpha. So now what we can do is we can right click and create material instance called damage color death. And so all that is it's just the material set up as a material instance. We're going to check off damage color, and so by stock it'll be white. So we can do some more interesting things now. So instead, what we're going to do is we are going to set the material. We're not going to check if health is less than or equal to, well, we might do it. We'll just set that to death when that happens. But if it's not, so if it's different, actually let's just do on event any damage. So when damage is caused, what we're going to do is, well, first we need to create a material reference variable. So let's go damage mi for material instance. This will be a material, okay, Unreal, material instance reference. Compile. We're going to choose our damage color death. We're going to drag this out as a getter, holding down control, and we're going to set create dynamic material instance. Return value, promote to variable. We're going to call this curve for current damage color. And so we're going to copy this. So we're then going to set the material of the mesh to that material. So on its own, this isn't going to do anything interesting. It's just going to change it to that gray, and then when it dies, it turns to the death color, which we changed to white. But what we can do is we can drag this way over. We can come off of the current damage color, and we can set vector parameter value. So what do we call that? Death color? Damage color. So if we type in damage color and then set this back together, material, back to a reference. So here's where we can do some neat things. So if we take this linear color structure, drag backwards and make it, we could do some interesting things. Let's, for example, go random float. That's not what I wanted. Actually, yeah, that would have worked. Oops. So let's just random float. So you can see now if we shoot it, it's not doing what I intended. Where? Access none. Okay, why? Oh, parent, of course, I need to set that current damage color. Still not. What's going on? Access none. Current damage color from node. Set vector parameter value. Like so. Why is that giving me errors? Okay, we're going to do it the proper way. So on the construction script, we're going to get current damage color, create dynamic material instance for the static mesh component. There's where I screwed up. Element index 0. And then that return value will be current damage color. Now we can go back and we can simply just take current damage color, parameter name damage color is our vector parameter value. And so when damaged, and then we're going to set the material to that as well. All right. That's still not doing what I was looking for. Resume. All right, so we can shoot it and have it change colors, so you can see where that could be used. You could add effects, you could generate particles or whatever there. But what if we set it based on health? So what if we took the value of health, damage, and we're getting values of about 12. So if we divided, so we want a value between 0 and 1. So if we take 12 divided by 5, or sorry, like 15 or 20. So what if we divided by 20 and plug that into red? I'll just put green like that. So the amount of damage we do changes the color. Maybe not 20, let's try 15. Works the same way though. So depending on how much damage you apply, you can do different things. And so this could be, for example, explosions or bullet effects. Depending on how much damage you are receiving, you can set to you know, how strong a particle effect is or whatever. So we can play with the damage to do things. So we could do things such as, what do we have? I don't think we have any particle systems in here. No, we don't. But let's look at something from the video that I think kind of interested the viewer who requested this. So let's create a user interface widget blueprint. Call this W underscore or W3D, since it's going to be a 3D widget. W3D damage widget. So what we can do is we can go up to the top and custom, and we'll make this 128 by 128. So just a tiny little one. We're going to delete the canvas panel and we're going to replace it with a size box, which we will set the width and height override to 128 by 128. And then inside of there we will put text, and we'll just set that to select 12. We are going to make that slightly bigger, like 42. And then let's open up the animation and timeline window. Let's create an animation called move out, and let's create an animation for our text here. So when damage is applied, we're gonna have some stuff happen. So we're gonna take our text and we're gonna take its transform in the X and Y here. So at 0 seconds, we are going to hit this button here to create a keyframe for the X and Y. At 0.5 seconds, it is gonna come over a little bit and down quite a bit, and we'll keyframe that. And then at 1 second, it's going to come over a lot and down just a little bit. We're going to keyframe that, and then just a tick more in, it'll be way off screen. It'll zoom out. Keyframe that. Let's do a preview, so it'll kind of go like that. It's kind of boring looking though. So if you go to the curve editor, and if we scroll out so we can actually see these, we're zoom to fit, there we go. Select all of our keyframes there, and if we turn it to cubic interpolation automatic tangents, we get a much more interesting look there. In fact, a little bit too much, but it'll work. So, all we need to do now is go into the graph and on event construct. So when this widget's constructed, we just want to play animation. And the animation we want to play is our move out animation. We want it to start immediately and play once. And that is it. So compile, save. Now let's go back to our testing cube for damage. Let's go to the viewport. Let's add a component, a widget. And we're going to call this damage widget. Actually, that's not going to work because we're going to want to do this dynamically based on damage. So when we take a damage, again, event, any damage, we are going to add widget component. So we're doing this dynamically. So we're adding the component to ourselves. The relative transform, so the transformation relative to the root, which is the static mesh. So we're going to edit that. So let's right click on relative transform and split it. We want to take the location, we want to make a vector, and we want to randomize these. Random float in range. So on a min of, let's say, -50, max of 150 for X and Y, and for the Z, we would want a minimum of maybe 250 with a maximum of 350. So it'll randomize its location. Oh, and of course, we need to go to our damage widget, and we need to set our text, let's go back to 0 seconds, to how much damage we're applying. So how can we do that? Well, we take our text here and we hit bind, create binding, and we create a variable called, let's say, damage applied. Should be a float. Compile, save. We want it to be editable, so hit the eye icon or press editable, and let's hit expose on spawn too. And then we'll just drag that into the return value by doing a getter and then like so, casting to text. However, we don't want any decimals, that would look kind of ugly. So we want half to even, we want grouping, minimum integral digits 1, maximum integral digits 3, minimum fractional 0, maximum fractional 0. So that will give us a whole number from a float. So, so that will work now. We can go back to our testing actor. So we're adding our widget component, and we're on the return value, we want to set widget to, actually we can just do that here, widget class widget 3D damage, and we want it to be double-sided. Is two-sided? Yes. Return value, we want to set damage, actually sorry, we want to, so this is giving us a widget component reference. So I think if we cast to get widget, get user widget object, one of these, get widget user object, yeah, user widget reference. So cast to the class we just created. As that widget, we're going to set damage applied to however much damage we did. We're not going to need to divide it this time. So we'll set that. If the cast fails, however, then we're just going to destroy or remove component. Component. Apparently not in this class. Just destroy actor. I don't know if that'll work. Nope. Remove. Let's give him whatever, that should work. So let's see how that looks. Compile, save, play. So we shoot it. We get some text. As you can see, it's randomized a little bit, but that is quite hard to see. So let's just quickly make a quick change. Draw size 128 by 128, and rotation, we want to yaw it by 180 degrees. So turn it around to face us. So there we go, sort of. So we get our text component. So you can do things like that, and like I said, you could replace this or add particle systems to really add some effect, as well as, like I said, changing the color. And this is all on event any damage. And event point damage works the same way. So we're applying damage. Let's just replace this just to see the changes. Apply point damage. So we'll replace that back into the execution string. The damage actor is going to be the hit actor. Oh yeah, I already made that rewrote note. Hit from direction the hit came from will be the hit or the norm, or the hit normal, yeah. Hit info by reference, we can put hit into there. So you see we can get a lot more information out of this. The event instigator will be player controller, the damage causer will be self, the damage type will be just regular damage type, and the base damage, we're going to plug the same values in there. Let's see what that does. So it does roughly the same damage. So you can see that basic damage is the same as point damage, more or less. However, if we go back to our damage testing actor, and we have event any damage here, but I'm going to just disconnect that for a second. If we right click and go event damage, point damage, you see we get a lot more information. So I'm just going to do a quick print string append just to show you how this can be used very interestingly for a lot of effects. This is just a string, obviously I'm just displaying the values, but obviously you can take the values and make interesting things out of them. So we're going to say this much damage, or not, the who caused it. So the damage causer, display name, caused this much damage to self. I need to do that again. We'll just drag off of there to self. So now we have more information that we can use from the direction, and then we'll take the hit location, sorry, the shot from direction, and break vector. We'll just add the X and Y together to give us just some sort of value. I'm not going to go through some crazy vector math, that's boring, but from this direction value basically. And hit at, and we'll take the hit location and we'll break that. X Y Z. So let's compile, save, play. So now when we hit it, we get a ton of information that can be used to do all sorts of things. So projectile 14 caused 13 damage to our testing actor from the direction of negative 0.6. Hit at 813 X, negative 30 Y, 198 Z. And of course, if we shoot it at different locations, we're going to get different values, like so. As you can see, it works based off of world location. So you could you can create a lot more effects that way. And another interesting thing that you can do is, let's disconnect that, on event any damage, just more examples, spawn actor from class. So again, this goes back to the point where basically damage doesn't have to be about health. So we're going to spawn our cube damage acting tester. Always spawn, ignore collisions. spawn transform, we're going to split. We're going to take the damage though to do some interesting stuff possibly. So if we're getting values of about 12, we're going to want to divide that by 10. And so then if we split the scale, so we'll set the scale based on the damage, and then the transform location will be, since we don't have the extra information here, although I am working with point damage, I said, so let's use that just for fun since we did set it up in our projectile class to use it. So we'll reconnect the execution back up, we'll reconnect damage back up, but we'll get the hit location into the transform location and the hit normal to the rotation. So we can get some pretty crazy effects. And now these are their own class, they can replicate into themselves. So I mean, the possibilities are absolutely endless when it comes to spawning other actors or items from damage and basing it off of damage. That, because we're not applying a variety of damage, that doesn't show so well. So if we go back to our projectile, and we're not gonna apply, well, we'll apply impulse actually, but we're going to base the damage in a totally different way. We are just going to, because this one is using velocity, which is, I mean, physically right, but kind of boring. So random float from stream. Oops. Random float in range. So we want a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 100. So this will create some crazy effects. Boom! I think the collision's bugging out. That's not a... Yeah, that totally... Let's maybe minimum 1, maximum 15. So your little boxes and big boxes. So if you were to say set up a mage character that when they attacked, it maybe say spawned some extra characters to help attack. You know, technically, if I don't have any AI, but we could go so far as to spawn active. I don't know why I just deleted that. Where's our character? We could go so far as to spawn a character. Of course, the mesh is invisible, but so actually that might work for AI, although we don't have an AI controller. Or a behavior tree. No. I don't think that'll work without a behavior tree. And you wouldn't see a default pawn anyway. No. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, you could do some really interesting things. You could have an attack where multiple characters come for a short period of time. So let's say we spawn some AI and then, you know, you came off them and you said attack the player, and then, you know, delay a certain amount, and after that, you know, destroy actor, and then destroy yourself after a certain amount of time. So you can do that too. So that really is the basics of applying damage to any object or character, I mean this works on characters too, if we were to drag in, or sorry, duplicate the first person character, drag him in, although you only get the gun because of that bug that Unreal still hasn't fixed, and we don't want them to be controlled. Where's that setting? Disabled, yeah, okay, perfect. So if we took this character, again, damage, so on point damage, we can add offset local to the capsule component. Delta location will be the hit location. So now when we shoot him, well, he's totally apparently stuck. Movable. Let's go hit location times float times damage. Maybe we just weren't seeing it enough. Or maybe it just doesn't have a vector to work off of. Applying point damage. Let's go between 15 and 500. Apparently you can't shoot the stock character when it's just sitting there, even though it's movable. But if we copied that quickly over to our testing actor, and added offset to static mesh component, now I multiplied it by a crazy amount. When we shoot it, it goes teleporting. Let's not teleport. And it's still teleporting because it's such a ridiculous amount. Let's turn that back down, 0 to 100. So that's going to move it in, let's go normal, where it's hit. So you can have it move. So you could have a special type of gun, like a physics gun that, you know, forced an AI enemy away when you hit it, based on where you hit it. And you can go so much further as to even supply a bone name. So you could apply force to a certain bone. You could say shoot a weapon out of a character's hand that's attached to a bone socket. But yeah, that is basically the basics of point damage. So all you need is something to apply point damage. In this case, we just have our projectile, which makes things easier. But you don't need that. You can have it so that when your character overlaps, you could say when my character overlaps, you know, if I went capsule component on component begin overlap, we can obviously apply point damage. So the damaged actor would obviously be the other actor. The damage, we would have to calculate it however we want. Maybe we just do velocity. Say X velocity. So point damage does require all that information, so sometimes you have to just use basic damage. Point damage requires physics more often than not, unless you have the vectors to work with. And maybe it didn't help because I didn't choose a damage type. So the other actor. So we are applying damage technically. I believe we turned off our debug string. So if we turn that on very quickly, and we're not getting point damage, we are going to go to event damage, any damage. That should work back again. So it's going to need a capsule component or a box component. Where are you? There we go. So we're applying damage, and I totally just ran out of video memory. So yeah, that is how the basics of point damage works in Unreal Engine 4. Like I said, obviously I'm not showing you amazing things just right out of the box in an hour, but you know, you apply that with some materials, some instance materials with some vector or scalar parameters, some particle systems, especially for impacts if you're working with like bullets, projectiles, and 3D widgets. If you get really creative with them, you can create cool effects. And just basing everything off of how much damage is applied. Like I said, it doesn't have to be health. We can spawn cubes, we can spawn particle systems, we can spawn AI, you know. And if you use point damage, you can also do things based off a certain vector and based off certain normal, and so on and so forth. And when you add on physics to that, it can really make for some interesting things. So that is how you apply damage to actors in Unreal Engine. I think that should get, I forget your username who requested it, started, but I cannot find your username. But whoever requested it, that should get you started, and hopefully you can now destroy things in Unreal Engine. So I am going to leave it off there. Thanks for watching from the team here at UnrealTek.net, a division of BlenderTek.com. If you enjoyed this video and stream and learned something, please like it and subscribe for more videos. We're on social media on the links on your screen for the YouTube watchers. If you dislike this video for some reason, please tell us why so you can continually improve based on community input. We also take requests, so we will see you guys next time, and remember, create your way.